All right, let's put our new knowledge of the general balance equation to use, and we're going to do it for population dynamics. So this is going to be an environmental engineering problem. We look at population dynamics all the time. And what we're going to do is we're going to use people moving in and out of a town or dying and being born in a town in order to look at the general balance equation. So each year, 50,000 people move into the city. 75,000 people move out, 22,000 are born, and 19,000 die. Let's use the general balance equation to write out the balance on the population of the city. So what I want you to do is, just like every other example, I want you to pause the video and give this a try yourself to see if you can figure this out. And then on the next slide, I'm going to walk you through the solution. So take the pause right now. All right, so let's talk about the solution to this specific problem. So I'm going to use some highlighting to help us out here. So remember that when we're talking about the general balance equation, we are going to have input plus generation minus output minus consumption equals accumulation. So that's the first thing that you're always going to write in any of these types of problems. Okay, and then what we need to do is we need to figure out what is the input, the generation, the output, the consumption, and the accumulation. So basically, the problem is asking for what is the change in accumulation. So we're looking at the change in people per year. That's what's going on here. So if every year, let's do the 50,000 people move into the city. So I'm going to highlight this one right here. Okay, 50,000 people move into the city. Well, that's an input, right? So if the process is the city, that is the input, and that's where this 50,000 comes from, right? So that's the input to the city. All right, let's grab a different color. We know that 75,000 people move out. So that's leaving the city. And if the city is the process, that is the output term right here. It's a little hard to highlight on the screen. There we go. All right, we know 22,000 are born. This purple is not the best color, so I'm going to circle it down below. If 22,000 people are born, that is the generation. It's adding to the system. Remember, it's positive. And then lastly, 19,000 die. So that is quote unquote consumption in the system, right? Because it's a negative value. So then if we add all those numbers up, what we end up finding is that accumulation is negative 22,000 people per year. So remember, accumulation can be both negative and positive. So what this is telling us is that the city's population is decreasing by 22,000 people per year. So this is just a very, very basic example of how we can use the general balance equation to think about what's coming in and out of the system. So here we define the process as the city. The input is the number of people immigrating. The output is the number of people emigrating. The generation is the birth rate, and the consumption is the death rate. And so we end up with a net accumulation, and that accumulation is negative because we're losing people in the system, because the output and the consumption terms are bigger than the input and the generation terms. All right, so hopefully you try that on your own. This is just a real quick example of how to use the general balance equation.